Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm a little sick today, so excuse my voice being dry, but today we're going to be going over my top 100 favorite cards of the Sword and Shield era. This is a video I've been planning to do for a while, and you may be saying, oh well, the Sword and Shield era isn't over, why are you doing your favorite cards already? My involvement with the Sword and Shield era is basically over at this point. I don't think I'm going to find any more cards that I like, just because I'm not playing much Standard at all. TCG Live removing the game also means I'm cut off from like any playing of Expanded, and I just don't play Standard much, so maybe I'll get in like a game per set kind of deal at this rate. Mainly just spending my time in the retro scene, as you would know if you watch this channel. So today we're going to be going over my favorite cards of the Sword and Shield era. Some of these are based on art, some of these are cards I pulled, some of these are cards I played with. There's a little bit of a mix of everything. Obviously, you're seeing a pretty weird card as the first choice on the screen. Not going to do any fancy editing for this. It's in no particular order. It's just me rambling about cards I like. Seems like a lot of people really like these kind of just rambling videos, so I'll make one every once in a while for you guys. People really seem to like my Celebrations 2 video, so maybe we'll do something along that line in the future, maybe when we get closer. Anyway, we have Alcremie V here. Now this one is really interesting. You can't tell on the... if you've never seen it in real life, you wouldn't know. But in real life, in especially the Japanese and Korean and Chinese texturing, the English one is very muted. The background of the texture is like sweets and like candies, right? It's one of my favorite full art cards ever, just because of that. It's such a cool choice to like texture it like it's candies and sweets and macarons in the background and all that. Just makes a really, really nice full art. And I also just really like Alcremie, so pulled the Korean one from my box of whatever the set was with the amazing rares in Korean. I think it's like Legendary Heartbeat or something. Then we have Arceus V alternate art. Kawayu is one of my favorite artists. This is just a really nice card. Arceus V's effect on the game was both good and bad. I think the Brilliant Stars format was the best Sword and Shield format we've got, but ultimately, as I've gone back and like built the format, I'm also just kind of like, the best Sword and Shield format is still like worse than like almost any Sun and Moon format. So, I've slowed down on building it. I still have to get to Arceus deck, because Arceus is still expensive, because this is one of like the best cards ever printed in competitive. Like, no joke, it just refused to die, despite everything being against it right now. But this is just a really wonderful art. Shout out to the other Arceus alternate art that just didn't make the list. Well, I should say there's two other Arceus alternate arts. Then we have Blaziken. This one is just an art one. I did play some Blaziken VMAX in Expanded. This was actually a deck in Expanded. When the set first came out, it took like 3rd place at a top 8 I think at a Japanese like Expanded tournament. The card is just not very good though. Doing 130 is just not enough on the VMAX. The VMAX has got some really cool art, so shout out to that, but the V, as expected of, Pokemon in the Sword and Shield era that evolve into a VMAX, they just print these cards with nothing on them that's useful, so a little bit disappointing there. At least has like a usable 50 damage attack, but like an utter dog shit card. This is one that's just for the art. If you don't know, this depicts a very specific moment in the game. I'll be featuring this on Roseanne's now that I actually remembered it. In the post-game of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you get to re-challenge your rival around right where you first met them on your way back, and this card is part of that. Then we have Blissey V. This is one I have a more playing attachment to. This is just my favorite artwork of it, because I'm not a big fan of the alternate art or the full art or the regular art, but this art is really cool. Was able to pull this one, so nice little bonus there. This one, the ability is complete dog shit, don't worry about it. That only came into play maybe like 5 times in like the 1,000 games I played of Blissey. This thing was an absolute monster and Expanded when it first came out. Essentially, Battle Compressor, discard 3 cards from the deck, so you discard supporters to use with Blissful Blast. Discard energy to use with Blissful Blast. The supporter part was the way I chose to play the deck. I chose to play it 4-verse Seeker, maxed out copies, and then a ton, I think like 15 different one-of supporters. And essentially just give you an out to any matchup in the Expanded format, because supporters are just really, really strong. When you don't need to be like constantly drawing cards or gusting like your opponent does, you can really really harangue your opponent with like these different supporter effects. Avery, I had Lucamine, so I could, you know, discard Lucamine and Silent Lab and then Verse Seeker and get them both back. There was obviously Guzma and Lysander. There was the Hue. That was my favorite one. The opponent would draw a giant hand off the mulligans because you only have like 4 basics in the Blissey deck, and then you would Hue and force them to discard like 10 cards from their hand while you discard the energy to use with Blissful Blast, which is really sick. That was one of my favorite supporters. Trying to think of any other supporters that were really, really big in here. There's one that I'm like really missing. Yeah, Faba. That's how you win against double dragon decks. Before ADP Dragon Knight was out, and that deck just is far too powerful for Blissey to deal with the set afterward. Same with like Volcarona the set afterward. You'd play Faba and you just use that 4 times and auto win against double dragon decks, because turns out when they are only allowed to use their best special energy card ever printed for 4 turns, they're not able to finish the game against something as bulky as Blissey, usually. So yeah, just do a ton of damage. You'd get like, you know, your first attack would do like 40 damage, you know, to 70 damage really with Blissful Blast, not doing a lot. But then you would get like 3 energy on it. Next turn you'd be hitting for like 250 damage, which is just really good. Really, I just like the toolbox aspect of it. It made it fun to play. I have done a video on my Blissey deck, though obviously it was past its prime by the point I did the video. Then we have Celebi from Shining Fates. This one is one of the few good cards from Shining Fates. It's from the Venusaur deck, Venusaur VMAX deck in Japan. Sadly not very playable. Unlike Mew, looking at the top 6 to reveal an energy card, not as good at finding an item card. I did play this in one of my decks and expanded in a Fearow control deck, just because in that deck, finding your energy was everything, and you were constantly getting knocked out. So, like, you got like 5 chances to use this a game, and you know, 8 energy in the deck. You need a little bit extra help sometimes to find it. It's just like a nice energy lotto effect every time you get knocked out. Put a U-turn port on it. There you go. This one though, Celebi is my favorite Pokemon, and this art is really good. Shout out to Yu Nishida. She won the 2019 illustration contest with Pokemon, and then got brought on as an illustrator. She also did the art for the Mew, I believe, from Celebration. So, but this one's one of my favorite Celebi arts. It's just really nice. Then we have Celebi V. These are sorted by name, I think, so you're going to see a lot of the same cards in one thing. Very happy that Celebi V got a custom illustrated V. Most Vs are obviously CGI and look bad. This one is a very nice Akira Egawa print. The English one doesn't look great, honestly, in real life. It obviously looks very good here because we see a clean scan of it, but the English one in real life doesn't look too good, but the Japanese one looks really, really nice. I bought both of them, of course, being a Celebi collector. Really beautiful card. Sadly, the attacks in are terrible, even worse than the CG Celebi V that we got in the original Sword and Shield set. So, of course, you know, unfortunate. Then we have the most beautiful Celebi V. This is definitely like top 5 cards from the Sword and Shield era. The alternate art T0 Celebi V in the Crown Tundra. This thing is just so pretty. One of the best arts in the TCG of all time. T0, this card is the one who introduced me to T0, and then a couple cards later we would be at the card that would really make him my favorite illustrator of all time. So, really pretty. Alright, so moving on, we have Comfey. This is another T0 art. It's my favorite art of Comfey, though I also really like the Crown Zenith one, which is really eerie looking. This one's just really well painted, really fun to look at. I do also just love Lost Zone decks. I think it's probably the most creative engine we've seen for the game since like back in the SP days with the SP engine. You know, having to do this like constant like trade-off of, okay, like it's not like I'm putting it to the bottom of the deck, it's like, okay, if I lose this resource, I'm losing this forever. And it really creates some skillful decks. Obviously, we've seen Lost Zone kind of degenerate into turbo decks as the game's gone on. I really liked Lost Zone when it was mostly Radiant Charizard decks, despite me thinking Radiant Charizard is one of the ugliest cards ever printed. Those were really fun, the whole like setting up numbers and then going for the sweep. It really reminded me like these old school classic spread decks that we really haven't seen in the game a lot since. Obviously, like I said, it has degenerated into turbo decks. Part of that's Lugia coming out and forcing the deck to run things like amazing rares to keep up with Lugia V-Star, and then, you know, the rotation happened, and then it's playing Dragonite V, one of my least favorite cards of all time, just to one-hit KO something on the first turn of the game. Yeah, I don't love how it turned out, but it was really fun to start off with. And then we have the Comfy from Crown Zenith. Like I said, really, really pretty art on this one, really atmospheric. I don't know where it's going, probably hell, for its sins of bringing Dragonite V to relevance in Standard after it. You know, at least in Standard for a while you could escape Dragonite V from the expanded hell it brought, but now it's just in both formats, so enjoy your time in hell, Comfy. Then we have Dark Sylveon. This one's just a fun one for the art. I chose not to put the Celebrations reprints in here, otherwise Claydol would be like my favorite card in the entire Sword Shield era. That doesn't seem fair. But I did put the newer Celebrations cards, the ones that are cards that we got. Weird that Japan didn't get these, one of the very few instances where we get something and Japan doesn't. But this Dark Sylveon is just really cool looking. Just that custom drawn Vs are obviously going to be better. The Charizard, though, like the Lance's Charizard was a bit derpy. This one just does really good on that promise of like having an evil Sylveon, which is like kind of like an oxymoron, right? Because Sylveon's not evil, maybe. Then we have Diancie from Astral Radiance. This card, I both like the effect of it and I like the story behind it. So the effect of it's obviously blocks boss. This is like a good thing. Anything that blocks boss is just a good card for the format. Frankly, I think there should be a counter card for boss. I posted this as a joke on my Twitter a while ago about a Power Spray reprint that specifically stops boss, where you scream at your opponent and then eat their copy of boss's orders. But frankly, a card that does stop boss that you can run as a 4 of in every deck without consequence would be very good for the game. Automatic Gust has been one of the worst things about the modern era of Pokemon. Gusting should be limited to more difficult conditional means or to Pokemon that evolve. This is not. This should not be a controversial thing. If you look at the way that the game's developed, most of the disappearance of like evolution decks is due to boss, and evolution decks having to be like so overtuned in the way that Gardevoir is because you know, boss is so good. But we see like nowadays you don't even see Diancie seeing play despite it being a boss counter, because countering boss isn't enough. The attack like isn't that great. So it's only really useful in like hardcore like setup decks that I used in expanded with like the Scorch, not Scorch, Moltres Mill, where you just set up like a win con behind it, and plus like ropes around, so there's plenty of counterplay that's just too available to Diancie, and you just can't get 2 of these in play at once, plus things like Avery to target the bench. Then we have Drapion V. This one's an art thing, though I just don't like Mew VMAX. Mew VMAX was cool when decks had like enough time and space to run dedicated dark patch engine, like dark packages and engines in the Brilliant Stars format. You know, you see like the Moltres, Galarian Moltres, Hoopa, like those kind of like, I think Ross Cawthon like made the dark pack deck. And then that transferred really well into Brilliant Stars. Going forward, you saw like what you call it, like Rapid Strike Urshifu with dark types was really cool, right? So hit both sides of the weakness. Drapion V I like for one reason, like I said, because it kills Mew, and I had fun just running this around as 4 Drapion Vs when it first came out, just to troll Mew players, because fuck Mew players, I guess. But it's also just nice to see Yukimori get a nice full art here. I like this one better than Venusaur Snivy that we saw before. Then we have Druddigon. This one's another one of my top 5 favorite arts of the era. Definitely up there. I think it's my favorite art of the Sword and Shield era in like total. Because I do not like Druddigon. I'm a Gen 5 stan, but I do not like Druddigon as a Pokemon. But this art is so good. Of Druddigon and Ace Trainer. There was a specific name for the Ace Trainer. That's the only one in Black and White 2 to have a Druddigon, but I don't remember their name. This card is good in GLC, which is like the sole reason to play Dragon, which is otherwise hasn't gotten any updates in like a year's time, because for some reason dragons still exist, but they don't actually print them. And they're in the worst state. Dragon type really should have been discontinued instead of Fairy, let's be real. But this card is absolutely gorgeous. Big fan. One of the best arts of all time. Then we have Espeon V. This one's another art one. I don't really care about the effect of Espeon V or VMAX. This one's just a pretty art. I would have been able to get this if the Pokemon hype didn't destroy prices, so I never ended up buying this, and I don't think I ever will. Then we have Galarian Moltres V, another art one. Again, Pokemon hype prevented me from ever getting this because it's like $100. And, you know, pre-Pokemon hype, this would have been like $40. It'd be pretty easy to get, but nope. Very nice art by Shibuzo. Then we have Galarian Stunfisk. This is my favorite expanded deck of the Sword and Shield era. Just so much fun to play. Essentially, the attack is useless, but you play it for its Snap Trap ability. If it's your active Pokemon, it is damaged. Even if it's knocked out, discard an energy from the attacking Pokemon. So the deck played a hybrid of, hammers and stuff to remove energy. It played Zacian V to draw through your deck to consistently keep finding cards. And it played 4 Verse Seeker. It played Lusamine, so you could Lusamine loop your supporters infinitely. And then cards like Flare Grunt. I think I had 4 Flare Grunt at one point in the deck, maybe 3 nowadays. Just to constantly remove energy. Faba. In the Sword and Shield to Evolving Skies format, before Shadow Rider was discovered to be good, and there was only ADP Dragonite and Volcarona. ADP Dragonite was 70% of the ladder, Volcarona was 20%, and then 10% was Donk. This deck had a very favorable matchup against ADP Dragonite. Of course, they can just cheese you because, it's ADP Dragonite, for God's sake. They can just, turn 1, 250 on you over and over again and just, wipe you off the board because Max Elixir and Double Dragon Energy are unbalanced crap pile cards. But this is one of the few decks that could stand up to it just by removing its energy over and over again. You move the Lightning Energy and then Faba the Double Dragon, and they have a hard time responding every single turn to that multiple times. Life Dew, of course, to extend the game. Then we have Galarian Zapdos. This one's just a nice artwork. I don't own this one. It's a shame that this card took so long to come out because the regular Zapdos V is hideously ugly, but this one is very cool looking. And I don't like the original, I think it's Tetsuya Koizumi, Roadrunner looking Zapdos art. I much prefer this close-up shot with Sonya chasing it. It's a lot of fun. Then we have Zigzagoon. This one's just a fun little tack. Is it as cool as Crobat G? No, but is it nice to have the effect back? Yeah, it was kind of cool to see it back. I almost considered removing this off the list just because having faced thousands of games against Donk in Expanded since this card came out has kind of traumatized me, but I try to ignore that in my judgment. Then we have Gardevoir V with the nice Kagemaru Himeno art. I'm going to infinitely praise cards that have custom artworks of their Vs instead of CG crap, and this is one of the best ones. The flower petals scattering around while Gardevoir gathers up energy for a big, I say big, but not really because it's a regular V that evolves into a VMAX, so it does 40 damage. Magical Shot for 30. Oh god, Sword and Shield card design's abysmal. Then we have Golurk V. This is so good. Top 10 cards in Sword and Shield era for sure. This one has a great Kato artwork. I'm glad that when Golurk V got an alternate art, it wasn't just a mediocre alternate art. Shout out to Conkeldurr V for getting slaughtered. I was waiting for a Conkeldurr Ultra Rare for years, and then he gets the worst, least playable V of the entire Sword and Shield era with the worst alternate art. My god. Pokemon Go is a really bad set. But this art is just really cute. You got Golurk helping out. Sadly, Golurk never really got a chance to shine as a meta-relevant card, and it's getting close to rotation. I don't think it ever will, but it's a beautiful card. I thankfully bought one when it came out in Japanese. Paid a little bit more than I should have because I was day one, but I wasn't going to miss out. And then I actually pulled it in English. I was very lucky. So, very nice. Then we've had Hatterene V, another one of the best drawn Vs. You're going to notice that I like Kawaii V arts. This is one of the best ones. It's really good. I sadly don't have it because I haven't opened up much Crown Zenith because I was broke when the set came out, but I'll get it eventually. Oh, oops. I'm going to blur this out so you can't see it, right? Then we have Heatran V. Heatran V, a really nice Mitsuhiro Arita drawn V art. There's a few other ones, but this one's just the best one. I don't really like the Slow King one, which is the one I remember off the top of my head. But this one's just really good. Heatran Old Meat Dog, really cool looking Pokemon. I know some people disagree, but I like Heatran quite a bit. And this art just does a lot of justice. The Magma looks really sick. Of course, it's a bad card because, Sword and Shield era V, but whatever. Then we have Ho-Oh V, another illustrated V. This one's not for the effect. The ability on it's terrible, especially compared to the old Ho-Oh EX. But it's cool looking art, for sure. Cool looking art. Oh boy, we get a fun one here. Hydreigon C. This is one of these celebrations cards. It's my favorite promo, I think, of the past, probably decade. I can't think of another promo that I've liked this much since like Tropical Beach. It's so cool. This card has it's very reminiscent of the original SP cards, and the way I say this is back in the SP era, the way that they assigned artists was per character, except for the Galactic cards. The Galactic cards kind of intermixed, but back in the day, it's like each artist got their own character, sometimes multiple. So Kagemaru Himeno, she did the art for Maylene's Pokemon and for Bertha's Pokemon. Koki Saito did the art for Aaron's Pokemon. We saw Fukuda do the art for Flint's Pokemon. Arita did the art for Lucian's Pokemon, right? So each character got their own. And like, you know, how would Iris get her own artist, right? Because she technically wasn't a character back then. Well, the thing is that Cynthia, the champion, got Kawayu art. And they decided to faithfully recreate that with this card right here by having Kawayu do the last Pokemon C there ever would be, being Hydreigon. So, really, really faithful, having the champion art from back then do the champion yet again. Also, it's a Kawayu art, it's Hydreigon, which is a cool Pokemon. One of the best arts of this era, and also one of the coolest effects. I hate the 25 stamp in combination with this. It's way too much. Just take off the 25 stamp, or put it like... They should have just done the 25 stamp as like a see-through thing on the bottom, but whatever, like a league foil stamp. My biggest gripe with the card is that it's too overpowered. I wanted to put it into my cube, but it's too good for my cube, and it's far too powerful for Pokemon SP of the time too. The gold standard attack of the SP era was Dragon Rush, which does 3 energy, 80, and you lose 2 of the energy doing the attack. And doing 100 for 3 and 20 snipe to 2 Pokemon is way too much. 110 HP is more than any basic SP Pokemon had. From memory, they max out at 100 with Dialga, Rayquaza, Palkia. They maxed out at 100, but 100 was the highest end. Realistically, a Hydreigon C would have like 80 like Garchomp C had. So this should have like 80 HP. 80 HP would make it too low for my cube, but regardless, it'd be cool. And then Berserker Blade should do like 60 damage, you know, and 22 snipes. Is like, that's fair. That's a fair attack for the SP era. Also, they did the weakness wrong. Weakness for Dark-type Pokemon back in the SP era was actually Fighting type, like it should be. So that was Sword and Shield for fucking up the weakness and resistance system irreversibly. Anyway, I ended on a negative note. This card's really cool. I do love it. Some of the nitpicks do bother me. They screwed up with like Toxtricity as well, for making the card just like way too overpowered for its era. Then we have Jirachi. Celebi got an amazing rare, but the amazing rare Celebi is done by 5-band graphics. A fate worse than death, frankly, getting drawn up by 5-band graphics. I would rather die than have my funeral portrait drawn by 5-band graphics. I suppose I'd be dead at that point anyway. But please, I'll put in my will, don't let 5-band graphics near my gravesite. Please, don't let them desecrate me like they did to Celebi. Look what they did to my boy, right? Jirachi was the most playable of the Amazing Rares when they first came out, in which it was not playable at all because the Amazing Rares were terrible until the Lost Zone engine and Lugia V-Star came around to give them a little bit of way too much shine that they didn't really need. Dreamy Revelation was just a nice little like consistency engine, but it just never took over. It never inherited the legacy of Team Up Jirachi because the attack was also, of course, it's an amazing rare attack. It's dog shit. But this one has the best artwork of all the Amazing Rares. I also considered putting Yveltal on here because I played with Yveltal a lot and expanded, but facing Lugia gave me PTSD from Brain Rot deck, so I'm going to ignore Yveltal's existence because of that. Then we have Lugia V alternate art. This one's just another really amazing Kawayu alternate art. People give this one way too much flack, way more than it deserves. It's one of the best arts of the Sword and Shield era for sure. Not in my top 10, definitely up there. Then we have Luminion V. I love supporter search effects, even if this card is otherwise completely useless. And this card is just, this art is just so beautiful. Chinchou is one of my favorite Pokemon. Shout out to Chinchou. Got 2 Chinchous. Perfect art choice for this. Lots of colorful coral and Luminion in the background there. Perfect art. Incredible artwork. And like I said, I like supporter search effects. I'd prefer if this card was better If this is more along the lines of Tapu Lele, give it like 220 HP, give it like a double colorless attack that does like, you know, like 150 damage or something like that. That would put it on like put it on the same level that Tapu Lele was when Tapu Lele released. Comparatively, this is just Tapu Lele but bad. But I do like supporter search effects, even if Lugia is the one abusing it nowadays. I fucking hate Lugia V-Star. Then we have Magearna. This is a card that went right into my cube. Perfect power level for my cube. It's got 90 HP, so pretty weak, but cool artwork by Akira Egawa. She's a great artist. It's got a great set of attack and overhaul for my cube, so shuffle, draw 6, just very solid early game attack in my cube. And wind up cannon. Doing 110 for 2 is more than most attackers do in my cube, but it's conditional. The opponent's got to play into it. This is just one of my favorite cards in my cube. Then we have Metacham V. This is a great art by Kiyotaka Oshiyama, who actually does a lot of work on like anime. I did a Roseanne's tweet about that the other day. Follow Roseanne's research on Twitter if you haven't. I know there's a lot of controversy about Metacham V because of the new deck that came out with Iron Valiant. All I'm going to say is it's not Metacham V's fault. Metacham existed peacefully until the Fire Nation attacked. Fire Nation being these new future Pokemon, which are just really badly designed cards alongside the ancient ones. They're not. It's a very bad design in these cards that worries me for the future of the game. But Metacham V, very cool card, very cool art. Did pull this one, luckily. Then we have Mew from Celebrations, Yu Nishida art that I mentioned before. Just a very pretty card. Got some nice colors in the background. And it's a good boy. I use this in my expanded Whimsicott deck until obviously Expanded died with Transfer to Live. And even if Expanded was around now, that new tool rule they did that fucked up all the tools and made them not item cards would make that deck unplayable. Most of my favorite decks in Expanded relied on tool cards being items, so I guess I'm just probably never going to go back to Expanded again because I hate that rule change. Rest in peace. So then we have the Mew art from Crown Zenith. It's just really nice art. I already said my piece about the card. Sadly, I just don't enjoy the card's presence in the game anymore because of it being a Gardevoir. It's just not my favorite thing for it. I enjoyed it more being like its own deck thing with like Dialga and with my Whimsicott deck and Expanded, but obviously can't do the Whimsicott thing anymore because of the awful tool rule that they added, but whatever. Then we have a Rangaroo. Rangaroo, just really nice art here. I do like Primate Wisdom, though seeing this card in Lugia made me like it a lot less, but this art is really nice. Then we have Puke. This art's way better than the pre-release promo, let's be real. And this is just a fun card, you know, being able to draw an extra card. Essentially, control decks can turn themselves into a 59 card deck, but in actuality, because it can work multiple times, it's actually just really, really good because you can just hit into it multiple times. It's not a strong enough effect for it to actually be good in like Expanded, but you know, it's awesome play in Standard, especially as Scoop Up Net was around, so if you started it, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, I like this card a lot. Then we have Raditurn. The Radiant Pokemon aren't great for the most part, but I like this one because Climactic Gate was really fun. Search your deck for up to 2 VMAX, put them onto your bench, then your turn ends. Really made some good, really made some VMAX Pokemon good and Expanded for me. Obviously, it was played with Shadow Rider to a more meta level. I don't care about that. I'm talking like my favorites, like Orbeetle VMAX was my favorite with this because it was a lot of fun to play. Unfortunately, Expanded banned Scoop Up Net, so if I ever get to return to Expanded, I will not be able to play Orbeetle VMAX anymore because this deck relied on Scoop Up Net to exist. Why does it rely on Scoop Up Net? You're like, okay, why can't you just give up the Eternatus prize? It's not about the prize card, it's about the fact that Double Dragon decks will just discard the 2 Pokemon you put into play with Climactic Gate, and then you need to be able to reuse Climactic Gate on the next turn with Scoop Up Net for it to be good. So, rest in peace, Scoop Up Net. Really should have been Double Dragon that got banned, but you know, Expanded is a place of all time. Fun card though in Eternatus. Then we have my favorite Radiant, Radiant Jirachi. I should buy this in Japanese still, but I'll probably never get to it. This is part of my JJJ deck, which I did do a video on the channel about. I also covered Eternatus Orbeetle on the channel, so check those videos out. They're old at this point, but I have more accurate things to say about the lists from when I actually played them. Obviously now I'm just mad about Scoop Up Net and the awful tool rule change and all the bad changes about Sword and Shield to Expanded, but you know, whatever. Double Dragon should be banned. Entrusted Wishes was part of the deck, though it wasn't the core part. The deck was essentially a loop deck. The goal was to loop Jirachi every turn and use Astral Misfortune, and then set up your prize cards to be able to take multiple at a time with cards like Missing Clover and cards like Greedy Dice and Will to guarantee the Astral Misfortune knockout. Essentially, you just loop this over and over with Life Dew or Rescue Scarf until you get that. And part of the loop was part of that Entrusted Wishes. When you're knocked out, search your deck for 3 cards. So that just helps you get the loop again, because you can find like a Lana's Fishing Rod and a card to search Jirachi and an Energy, and then you're back on the road, or just grab whichever piece you're missing that you don't have in your hand already. Also makes you Marnie proof, which is really good, because Marnie was otherwise like a game ender for every stall deck in Expanded. You know, you just get with like a Marnie like Path on turn 2 in Expanded decks, because they don't because the supporter rule that they added in Sword and Shield completely fucked up the game in Expanded. Basically makes it so that you lose if your opponent does that turn 1 going second, because your Verse Seekers are dead if you haven't discarded cards. Like the Expanded decks don't play any supporters, so it just would lose. But yeah, knocking out Pokemon with Astral Misfortune was funny. Alrighty, then we have Rad Steelix. I think this is the last Radiant on here. This is just shout out to my boy Big Cheese. This card is awful, but Destructive Finish is hilarious. What a goofy attack. Did make a couple Expanded decks that were never very good around this guy, but shout out to my boy Big Cheese. I did buy this one in Japanese. Like I said, I'll have to go back and eventually buy maybe Eternatus and Jirachi in Japanese, because they look nice. Maybe I'll get a Greninja for some retro decks. Who knows? I don't like Greninja as a card, though. This is just, I like Steelix. I like shiny Steelix because he looks like Big Cheese. So, yeah, shout out to Big Cheese for real. Then we have Rayquaza. I did pull this one on Christmas Day in, I believe, 2021 or 2022. One of the two. Probably 2022. No, it's definitely got to be 2021, right? You couldn't buy Evolving Skies packs in 2022, and I didn't open up May packs then. But yeah, I pulled a Rayquaza V alternate art on Christmas, and that was pretty cool. This is one of the coolest cards in the Evolving Skies set, in my opinion, and pulling it kind of confirmed that to me. Then we have Gigas Un. Shout out to the Gigas gang. I don't think this card's going to be playable again while it's in Standard. Stop coping. There's no VMAXs around besides Mew for this thing to Giganton break, and even then it doesn't knock out Mew, so it's kind of irrelevant. This was just very fun in Standard and Expanded. One of the most fun strategies I think we have. Yes, it's linear, and yes, it's like, oh, you do one thing. But there was really, you know, it was just a fun, goofy strategy, you know, like we haven't seen a strategy like this in a long time where you had to like fill your board up, you know, you think back to like Magma's Groudon almost, in the way you had to fill your board up with like specifically the Magma Pokemon, but then you get to have a lot of fun because the strategy is just bonkers once you get this set up. And obviously when this being an Expanded at the time, you know, VMAXs weren't that great. But all the other Reggie attackers were pretty good, especially Regieleki. Very fun deck to play. And occasionally you run into VMAXs and then you just attach a powerful colorless energy and send them to hell, because VMAXs are bad design, so they've got a special place waiting for them in hell. Then we have Rotom V. I talked about the Stunfisk deck, how I played Zacian. Once Lost Origin came out, I replaced it with Rotom. Obviously the deck had passed its relevance by this point because Shadow Rider absolutely bodies the deck, because it's 5 ping attack, Astral Barrage, completely ignores Stunfisk, and alongside that, all your like mill items that require contact attacks. So, you know, just a complete hard counter, but regardless, Rotom V still kept the deck alive a little bit just because it was a little bit better than Zacian because of the 1 retreat cost. It had the same ability, essentially, drawing 3 cards. This is also just one of my favorite alternate arts. I did buy this one in Japanese because it's really cool. I kind of wish I owned an English one too, so I could play it in Standard and install, but whatever. Shout out to you, Nishida, once again. Then we have the Gremlin. A lot of people, this would be like their most hated card of Sword and Shield. All I gotta say is, let spread strategies exist in some extent, please. I know, obviously, turn 1 Lost Box is kind of cringe, but this is really the kind of power level that we need spread to be at nowadays. Otherwise, spread is just not good anymore because, you know, HP is in the 300s. You kind of can't, like, spread 20 to everything like you could in Sun and Moon when you're doing, like, a 9th of their health. You know, you think about that nowadays. Spread would have to be, like, spread 40 for 1 energy to be good, and even then the games are... this was, like, relatively, you know, look back to Sun and Moon, the games were, like, 6-7 turns on average, where now the games are, like, 3 to 4 turns on average, so it's, like... outside of like Gardevoir and Stall, so it's like You know, you think about that, and it's like spread would really have to be like more like 50 spread to everything for it to be good. And that would be too overpowered, because then evolutions would just stop seeing play entirely. And that's the thing we saw with Lost Mine, is like it super gatekeeps evolutions, but it's also the only way that spread can be good, is to gatekeep evolutions, because otherwise spread is just not doing enough damage against these massive overpowered behemoth VMAX and V-Star Pokemon. Then we have Superior V. This is another art one, because the card is absolutely horrible, as regular Vs tend to be in the Sword and Shield era. This is one of my top 5 favorite cards from this era for sure. Beautiful, beautiful artwork by T0, showing Reversal Mountain in the background and Rosa and Superior in the front. A little sad I didn't pull this from my box, but I pulled Serena and then sold it and bought this, so you know, whatever gets you to the same destination, right? Gorgeous card. Then we have Shadow Rider. I was able to pull this in Japanese while I was going Caitlyn hunting, because Caitlyn's my favorite supporter card of the era, and I was just really happy to pull this one, so really cool artwork on this one. Forgot to mention in this last part, though, that as much as I like this Shadow Rider, it also gives me nightmares of Expanded, because in Expanded, Shadow Rider was probably the least, like, problematic dominant deck we've had in the past, like, few years that I've been playing it. But, like, this Shadow Rider V in specific, I did speak about how I dislike textless Vs. This one is, both attacks are very, very, very good. To the point where, a bit problematic, these decks completely, or these attacks on Shadow Rider V completely removed control from the game, almost. And Shadow Mist is just unbelievably strong against some decks. You can just lock a stadium and play and just auto-win. So, like, these attacks are a little bit too good. They're not, like, damaging attacks. They're just, like, 2 attacks that just, if you run into a matchup, you just, like, sometimes auto-win based on the attack. Rest in peace, Stunfisk. Then we have the alt art of Shadow Rider. I picked these up for Expanded when these came out, because these are really nice looking, and they weren't as expensive as these guys. They're both the same on art tier. I'd like to pull this in real life, but I probably never will. Then we have Spirit Tomb from Chilling Reign. Oh boy, I love this. I love counter cards, silly, overdone counter cards even, because it means I can put this in my deck and not lose to cringe decks like Mad Party. In Expanded, Mad Party was very, very popular when it came out, for about the next 6 months after that too. And especially as a single prize deck, the only way to beat Mad Party was to be the one to attack first, or to play things like Life Do. And then Spirit Tomb came out and said, hey, if you want even your 2 prize deck to have an answer to this cringe Mad Party deck, here you go. So I teched this into as a one-of into a lot of decks. Basically hate teched Mad Party out of the meta. Most people didn't tech Spirit Tomb. I did. I put it in my Volcarona, especially because Volcarona otherwise just auto-lost, and now had a, like, 80-20 matchup with Spirit Tomb in there. 80-20 in Volcarona's favor as a 2-prizer. Really all you need to do is take 3 prizes and force your opponent into a board setup where Spirit Tomb wipes them clean. Then we have Trubbish. This is just a nice art by Shibuzo. I really like Trubbish. It's a good Pokemon. I'm saying this sitting right next to a Trubbish bag in real life, like a real life, like Trubbish, like dice bag. So if you couldn't tell, I like Trubbish. This art's cute. Moving on. This Victini by T0, another great T0 art. I wish this card was better than it could be, but it came out in the same formats where Marnie was legal. Searching your deck for 2 cards is cool and all until the exact 2 cards you want are put to the bottom of the deck, and then you get 4 garbage-ass cards off Marnie. But just one of my favorite Pokemon, not as high as it used to be, but I do really like Victini still, and a fun attack. Then we have Volcarona V, Speak of the Devil. The deck that I like pioneered, I'm not going to say I invented the deck, but I basically pioneered like the popular list in the Evolving Skies format. I was there on day 1 testing this when no one else was, and it's one of my favorite decks to play just because it's so overpowered. And it, like, is it good for Expanded? No, but by the time Evolving Skies came out, Expanded was doomed. People hadn't realized it yet, but ADPD had already come out to doom Expanded. Just wasn't being played yet. And once ADPD came out, that overtook Volcarona as the best deck because ADPD was just played more. And, you know, it's a lot easier for bad players to sequence a Max Elixir attached than it is to, like, sequence 10 energy in the discard every turn. Though, personally, I had a positive record against ADPD as Volcarona, even though the coin flip almost always won the game. I did win some games even when I'd lose the coin flip, just because you can outplay your opponent in very small spots where ADPD really doesn't allow that because you're just doing the exact same thing. But regardless, I think player skill factored more into that matchup spread more than the actual like deck itself. They're just 50-50 who wins the coin flip, right? But that extra 5% came from outplaying. And this art is just fantastic. It's the best art on a V, regular V. Kawaii hitting out of the park again. Then we have Whimsicott V. It's another bad V with nothing good on it, but it is Whimsicott, and it evolves into Whimsicott V-Star. A very disappointing card, only really lasted for 15 minutes of fame, in the meta, but was happy to see Whimsicott V-Star exist in some manner, even if it got totally cheesed out of its win in that, I forget, was it a regional or an international where it took second place? I believe it's a regional. To Rapid Strike Urshifu, and that's like Whimsicott's best matchup. That's why Whimsicott was good, is because of Arceus and Rapid Strike Urshifu, which you could just win against, but it lost its best matchup to having to attack with Beaverell because its board was just that abysmal. The biggest flaw with this card, like despite me liking it and thinking it's cool, the biggest flaw with this card is that Trick Wind is just not good enough. We saw back in the XY era that Giratina locked Stadium, Tool, and Special Energy with its, forget what that, Chaos Wheel attack. And this is Trick Wind's like the successor of that, but it doesn't lock Stadiums, which is absolutely horrible. Really an oversight. I think Pokemon during Swish, I mean, it's pretty obvious from the cards they print, they were trying to rule out any kind of lock, any kind of control. Everything was just who hits harder. This was basically just designed to be a dog card. Like, they didn't want this to see any play because they don't want strategies that slow down the opponent to see any kind of play. They just want big burr, like Miraidon. I hit 5 energy off of my 3 max elixirs, and I win the game now. Kind of decks to see play. And, they've kind of been trying to veer away from that, but not going hard enough on the new cards. And you can kind of see that with Whimsicott. This is just designed to be bad because they don't give it enough good locking potential in this attack. And then Fluffball Star, like, it's not an awful V-Star attack just because it's the kind of attack that you're just going to use to win the game. And I have seen it used mainly just to get one-hit KOs on, like, Urshifus because it'll do 180 reduced to 160, which will do 320 versus this doing 140 with double turbo. But Fluffball Star is completely unrelated to anything else in the card. This is something I hate about a lot of Sword and Shield cards, is that they print like aspects on the card that are completely unrelated to one another. You'll get like Orbeetle VMAX, for instance. Its attack is completely unrelated to its ability, where it's just the ability is spread, the attack is hit kind of hard. Like, why isn't there an attack that's like, does 30 plus 10 more damage for each damage gun on all your opponent's Pokemon? Oh, you didn't want to actually make Orbeetle good? Got it, that's why. Or it's like, the Volcarona V is a bad example, because that one's actually good. But like the Hatterene, where it's like, move damage counters on the VMAX, and then it's like, okay, the attack just does 150 damage in Confusion. Like, why? Why are you not like putting more damage counters? Why isn't it like a spread attack, right? Like, why are we not making these attributes work together, right? Like, I look back to like a Diamond and Pearl era card, right? Like something like Garchomp from Supreme Victors. This wasn't even like that good of a card. It was like a tier 2 deck, 2010 Worlds. The Pokebody, basically ability, gets energy off the opponent's active Pokemon. The attack does more damage if the opponent's active Pokemon doesn't have energy on it. Literally, like, 1 for 2. Like, this is how you... Like, obviously the card has more attributes and they have more things in the card, but like, they actually synergize. This is just like random. Like, I guess we have to give this thing a second attribute. It's not a VMAX, so we can't just give it 1 and then give up, right? We have to give it 2 because it's a V-Star. Here, just slap something on it, right? V-Star Pokemon or something else. Then we have Zekrom. Very nice artwork with N by Akira Egawa. Already talked about that. Card itself, not very good, but it's pretty. It had its like 5 minutes of fame in Silver Tempest format. Zoroark, this is just one of my favorite cards. For those who don't know, I actually designed a Zoroark card like in my like custom cards that I never like actually released, and it had this exact same effect essentially. So seeing this card printed, I was like, hey, first of all, they stole my idea. Who's spying on my Discord logs? But second of all, like, it was just so cool seeing it. Once again, Sword and Shield card design is give it a cool ability and then give it an absolutely useless attack. Like, I know this deck isn't completely worthless, but it's pretty much worthless. And the discarding the energy thing was something I didn't have. Like, you discard all attached cards. On my version of this, you did not discard all attached cards because that's awful. What essentially this limits is that I can't preemptively, like, let's just say I'm going to research, as one does during the Sword and Shield era, the era of 2 supporter cards for the first, like, 2 years. So you have Research and Marnie, right? If I'm going to research, right, I can't attach an energy, then research, and then Phantom Transformation. I have to Phantom Transformation before I attach the energy, because, like, you discard the energy or tool or whatever. And that's just really bad design. But sadly, Zoroark never really got to be good, but it was always probably the coolest card in the meta. Then we have Whimsicott from Viv. I've talked about this card extensively in expanded videos on the channel and the like. I've put probably like 3,000 games of expanded in with this fella just because Flying Fury, baby. Super fun attack. Once again, it's a Sword and Shield card, so it doesn't get a first attack that's like actually good, but I have used Triple Draw before. Against a Colossal deck, I Triple Drawed like 5 times just to get all of the tools in the deck to do 490 damage for the knockout because he had like 470 HP with all the reductions on. But mainly just for Flying Fury, 1 energy, you can do up to 490 damage if you have 2 Sigilifts in play. In expanded. In standard, the card had like 5 minutes of somewhat usability in the Vivid Voltage format. And then Rapid Strike Urshifu came out, and you're like, oh, it hits Psychic Weakness. It should be good against Urshifu, but Urshifu hits 2 Cottonies on turn 2, and then you lose. So it's actually not good against Urshifu. It's like, oh yeah, but just get Manaphy down. Okay, well then I can't get 3 mana. I can't get Manaphy and 2 Cottony down. So I'll get Manaphy and Cottony, and then they'll gust up the Cottony and kill that on turn 2, right? So there's no winning against spread with this thing, and it totally fell apart in expanded. It's never like a good deck just because even when it came out, Ultra Necrozma was just a better single prize deck because it ability locked and it was a basic, so it got to hit first. I had one of my best games ever, was a weird Ultra Necrozma like toolbox, like counter energy, Sudowoodo and stuff, and it was my Whimsicott deck. And it was a worse Ultra Necrozma deck, so it was more fair, but one of the best games ever. I don't know if that guy ever saw my video on my Whimsicott deck, but shout out to that guy playing the Ultra Necrozma deck. We like end each other like over and over again, just trying to piece together the last prize, and it was so close. What a game. I ended up barely taking it. Like one more turn he probably would have had it, but one of my favorite attackers of all time. Level Ballable, love to see that. Free retreat cost, love to see that. This is like, if you give this a good ability, this is like the perfect stage 1 to see play in the modern era, but then U-turn board rotated and they didn't print anything else for it. And we have like Electrode nowadays, but Electrode doesn't have U-turn board, and that's why it's terrible. It also only does 20 more damage to account for V-Star power creep, so yeah, these kind of cards are not meant to go against V-Stars. Then we have Orbital VMAX. I mentioned this earlier, talking down its effects, but in actuality, I just love this card. This is another incredible T0 artwork. You're going to see those a lot with my favorite cards of this era. Eerie Beam is what we built around. Put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon. Was actually decent in standard in the Battle Styles format because of Cheryl coming out. I played an expanded in a deck that I cataloged on the channel. You should go check that out. Essentially, the deck played 4 Cheryl, it played 4 Max Potion, and it played Recycling cards. And you're just going to switch between 2 Orbitals every turn, put 20 damage on your opponent's field, and then you're going to heal every turn. And it played cards to recycle healing cards, it played Lucamine to get back your Cheryls, it played Burst Seeker to get back your Cheryls, and then it also played Counter Energy, because the attack, well, really bad. The thing is that you can lure your opponent, because without public deck lists in the expanded format, no one would really know that you'd use the attack. If they see you, 10 turns, you're just using Eerie Beam, they're like, oh, he doesn't play any energy to use the attack. And then you'd pull out the counter energy, and just, the goal with it was just a one-hit KO something, right? Like, unexpectedly just take a knockout on something you couldn't deal with. The attack in actuality, like I said, no synergy with Eerie Beam, not really good at all, but you can take some surprise knockouts, and that's what made it good. And I also played mill cards in the deck, just so, like, there's some matchups where you just can't win. A lot of expanded decks like to tech random crap like Radiant Serena to just auto-lose this deck, so, like, just play, like, mill cards and you potentially pull a win out of that. Then we have Rapid Strike Artillery from the Brilliant Stars Trainer Gallery. This art is really nice. It's also really dark. If you know, you know. But I just really like the art style, and I like search. Search is always more skill-based than draw, almost always. Obviously, there's things like Clay Doll that come in where there's draw and choose, you know, kind of the put 2 cards at the bottom, and that makes Clay Doll more skillful than something like a B-Barrel, where you just draw and you get what you get. Whereas Clay Doll, you know, you're cycling, you have control there. But, you know, Rapid Strike Search is really cool. The Rapid Strike engine is way cooler than the Single Strike engine, which is just a go burr, blow thing up. Yeah, I like this. Then we have Rapid Strike Malamar. This one's more for the art. The effect on the card is actually kind of fun, but I never really played it just because, like, I just wasn't playing Standard and Expanded. I'd rather play Whimsicott than Rapid Strike, so, yep. Then we have Top Entry Lampent. I love these guys. For all of the crap I give Sword and Shield, they did give us like 3 or 4 good Stage 1 Pokemon throughout the entire era. I mean, I know they printed like probably 1,000 Stage 1 Pokemon, so getting like 0.1% isn't really a benchmark, but it's something, okay, it's something. There's the 3 Top Entry, and there's the Kirlia with Trade, essentially. Those are the good Stage 1s. Essentially, Top Entry, really cool with the Oranguru. If he's on the top of your deck and you draw him, then you get to put it into play. Saw a little bit of play. Obviously, Chandelure was not very good ever, but I had fun with it, and that's what matters. It's nice getting value for playing Stage 1s. It's nice putting Stage 1s into your deck. I really like evolving Pokemon. Believe it or not, really like when my Pokemon evolve and they're not like complete garbage. Then we have Chandelure, maybe fitting that it evolves from Lampent. We're talking about this. I did play some decks and Expanded with this, but it's mainly for the art. Because this is just worse than Rhyperior and Expanded. But discarding top 3 cards of your opponent's deck, kind of cool. We're seeing a little bit of an Standard right now compared, paired with the new Stall Snorlax deck, but it's not very good because there's no Scoop Up Net, and that's what made this really good and Expanded. Rather, Rhyperior really good with Scoop Up Net, obviously, but Scoop Up Net being banned and Expanded, basically all of my good rogue decks are now bad, and there's nothing fun anymore to do. Even if Expanded comes back, it's going to be an unfun, godless format because they got rid of the only fun, like, stall cards and, got rid of my Scoop Up Net, which made all my rogue decks playable. Now it's just Double Dragon Energy or Bust when it comes back. Then we have Kirlia. Really like the art on this one by Tadakitsu. And then it's got Refinement. Like I said, good Stage 1. Oh my god, I love when my evolving Pokemon don't just have blank text on it. Now this would be even better if this thing had like an actually okay attack. Yes, I know you can use this in like the Gardevoir mirror to like take a knockout. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like an actually okay attack, right? Like give this thing like the attack on Victini that we saw earlier, like search your deck for 2 cards instead of like slap for 30. But really good art, actually a good Stage 1. This should be setting the example. Scarlet Violet, so far, not following that example. They have printed like 2 Stage 1s with like any sort of relative use. We're getting like the Charmeleon and the reprint set, and that's all I can think of that is like an actually okay Stage 1. They're back to printing Stage 1s that might as well just not have text on them again, of course. Then we have the other good Kirlia. I forgot to talk about this with the Stage 1s. This is another good one because of Mirage Step. Man, I love when my evolving Pokemon actually have usable effects. Very cool. Then we have Shining Arcana Gardevoir. I didn't really like ever get that attached to the standard version of Gardevoir. It's solitary. I do like Counter Catcher because you have some ways to like interact now with the opponent, but like it is still a solitaire deck, which feels a little bad. But I did really enjoy playing this in Expanded with the Gardevoir from Next Destinies to double the Psychic Energy in play. So this actually made a really strong attacker with like 6 of these. You know, you're one hit KOing 6 energy on one of these. You're one hit KOing any Pokemon. So really fun. Then we have Gardevoir from Silver Tempest. This one is just an art thing. This is just the best art in the entire Sword and Shield era, honestly. Like, well, top 5. I'm not going to say that. T0 art's really good. Shout out to Arita. This art is incredible. As for the card itself, it's terrible. Then we have Grottle. Man, I love when my Stage 1s are good, even if they're actually not that good. Sundown Shell, good card in GLC, you know, with Torterra, which I think is next, but yeah. I don't play GLC. I just like that it's a good Stage 1. And then Torterra, good art. Okay Stage 2. Again, if they gave it a usable second attack instead of just one good attack and one blank thing, you know, you might as well just, like, not even have the attack. They should give this thing like an ability that says like if you have fewer prize cards than your opponent takes like 50 less damage from attacks. That'd be cool. Give it like actual bulk, right? Then we have Go Lurk. This is a card that I like because of GLC. Also T0 artwork. One of my favorite Pokemon of all time as well. Go Lurk. Top 3 favorite Pokemon probably. And this is really good because in GLC it's one of the best like psychic beat sticks. I play this in my GLC deck that I won a local tournament with. And just getting to play with Go Lurk, one of my favorite Pokemon, drawn by like my favorite artist in the game. Really good. Here's Flaffy, another really pretty card. Just really like character rares. ARs just don't hit the same as character rares did. Dynamotor, really fun. I'm saying like ARs are good, but like as someone who plays the video games, I suppose I didn't play Scarlet Violet, but as someone who plays like the video games up to like Sun and Moon and actually enjoyed them, Sword and Shield was terrible. Legends Arceus is really good though. I enjoy seeing the characters with their Pokemon. Dynamotor, really fun ability. That's another good stage one, I guess. There's a few more than I was willing to acknowledge, I suppose. Though I've definitely soured on this card since I don't like Miraidon. Then we have Cinccino, Make Do, Draw 2. I don't like the ability necessarily. Being on a stage 1 and all, it was okay in some decks. I just really like the art on this one, and it's an okay card. Shout out to like the one non-Galarian Pokemon that got a shiny and Shining Face. What an awful set, huh? But this is the best artwork of Cinccino. Sword and Shield base second place. The shiny one is by far the worst one. It's an okay card. Bronzong, Metal Transfer. I like this card. I have a love-hate relationship because it tortured me and expanded, but I didn't get to see this art when it tortured me. I think the other one's on here too, isn't it? No, I remember the other one. Yeah, moving energy around the field on a stage 1 is really cool. Get big Aromatisse vibes. Never good in standard, but cool. Altaria, really nice artwork on here. Tempting Tune is not good, and Glide is dog shit, so let's move on. Ludicolo, Suicune Ludicolo is a really cool deck. This ability in general is really funny. When you play this Pokemon to evolve one of your Pokemon, you can do 100 more on your basic attacks. Which is it's just really fun. Like, just being able to do 100 more is cool. I wish it wasn't limited to basics, though. Then we have Kingdra, really sick Kawaii art here. This card was, like, almost good, just because of Irida coming out, but, like, it's just not good enough in the era of the V-Star. I tried to make an expanded deck work with this, and it's so close. Essentially, the expanded deck would use the Finneon that accelerates to Pokemon with that, I forget, Swim Freely attack, and there's a Seadra with it. So you accelerate to Seadra, and then you evolve like 4 Kingdras into play at once. You set up behind Diancie that we talked about earlier, and then you just take like 3 knockouts with Aqua Burst for like 280 damage. But just not good enough. Really wish we had like some other ways to like stop Gust, or there's a game, right, where like my opponent was playing a Blissey deck, and it wasn't like a well-built Blissey deck. It was like a standard deck that they've had and expanded. And they had, forget what, that turned off my Diancie. And then they just bossed me 4 turns in a row. Just, like, literally, like, 2-card hand. And then they drew boss, used it. Next turn, okay, like, 3-card hand after taking the prize and drawing 1. They had another boss. No Verse Seeker, by the way, just straight boss. They had 4 boss in the deck. And they found 1 4 turns in a row, and I lost because of that. So, yeah. Dusknoir, Spectral Breach. Anything that turns off Double Dragon Energy is a friend of mine. I played it in some fun Dusknoir box decks and expanded. They were never good, but auto-winning against decks that relied on Double Dragon Energy always felt good. Really, please ban Double Dragon Energy. Beedrill, another card that's special energy hate. Always love to see it. I hate Fan of Waves. I hate Fan of Waves. Special Energy hate, cool. Actually somewhat playable stage 2, cool. Boss's Orders, we're getting into supporters now. Supporters and items and such. This is a cool card. Anyone who doesn't like this art is a hater. Is it as cool as Getsus? No, but this art is really good. Caitlyn, my favorite full art supporter of the entire era. Probably my favorite card of the entire era in itself. I'm going to silence for myself. I've definitely lost myself, but yeah, I'm in love with this card. Sharon's Care, really cool artwork. If you know what happens, like what this is referencing, I made a Roseanne's tweet on like how specific this art is. Everything is perfect. I didn't even normal type play the video games. Cheryl, really fun card to pair with Orbeetle. The art's really nice too. Shout out to you, Nishida, for that. Colress, really like Colress. It's like Sage's Training, but better because Sage's Training only gets 2, Colress gets 3. Lost Zone, whatever, discard, you know, I prefer to Lost Zone things, get them on my way, right? Really like this card. I don't like the other art of Colress that much, so this one's better. Cynthia's Ambition, just a really nice supporter card, really detailed background. Maybe I'll get this one eventually. Lisa Sparkle, really nice supporter card, better artwork in my opinion than the regular one. You got Black and White 2 Elisa instead of Black and White 1 Elisa, riding the Ferris wheel. And I had a lot of fun playing this and expanded with my really, really broken Melgen deck. Friends of Hisui, really fun card. Again, Legends Arceus was a good game. I did not like Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield was a bottom tier Pokemon game, but Legends Arceus was really fun. And this gives me a lot of Legends Arceus vibes to it because it's all the characters. Gardenia's Vigor, really nice artwork on this one. Shout out to Rune. He's probably not watching this, but shout out to Rune. Love the art style of all the plants all over the place. A lot of fun. Marnie Signature, I just really like the signature gimmick. Really fun. Getting these in the Marnie Premium Collection was a lot of fun. And then, of course, the full art. Also really enjoy the full art from the Premium Collection. Marnie's Pride, I won this in a giveaway. Really nice looking card, really bad card. Misfortune Sisters, one of my favorite mill cards. One of the very few good control cards from the Sword and Shield era. And then we have Pokekid, really happy to pull this in real life. I'm always like, you know, people think I'm weird for this, but like, I don't need like alternate arts for my packs, right? If I just get something that's like kind of cool that I can like use in a cube or like use in like a deck or like a full art supporter card that's like not completely awful. This one is like not good in gameplay. It's a cube card for sure, but this is just a fun card. Like I was like, oh, can I pull the Skyla? Can I pull the Ball Guy? Can I pull the Pokekid? And I opened up Shining Fates and I pulled the Pokekid, and I'm like, you know what? There we go. Not a garbage opening. Let's go. Professor Juniper. Getting the full art of that. Optimal research. If we're going to be forced to play research, we might as well at least play the best research print there is, which is this one. Shout out to them making it a promo, making it very easily accessible. I own like 10 of these. The other best research, Oak with the extended art. Really nice looking card here by Oshiyama. Same artist that did Metacham V alternate art. Really fun card. Roseanne's Backup, as you know, Roseanne's Research, favorite supporter of all time, other than the Caitlyn full art. So seeing this, you know, Roseanne get another card is really nice. Though I like Roseanne from different reasons than Caitlyn, obviously. Roseanne's a playability thing. Caitlyn is, I'm not going to answer that one. Then we have Roxanne. Roxanne in itself, not my favorite effect ever. It's cool to have lots of shuffle draw options, though, in the format at a time, because obviously we have Judge, we have Iono, and we have Roxanne. The art, though, on this one is really, really fun, by Toshinao Aoki, sorry. Really, really good artist that actually worked on the anime Hisane to Masotan, so fun fact there. Thornton. Love Thornton. Getting Pokemon back from the discard pile. Really good. It probably looked like a simp up until now. I promise there are male supporter cards that are cool. This is one of them. Good effect. Not playable because in this era you can't afford to not be like drawing 8 cards or bossing your opponent to auto win the game. But cool card. Hisui Ball. It's Azelf from Legends Awakened Jr. It got way undertuned for the effect, but it's still anything that stops prize cards from losing you the game instantly is a good card if you ask me. Level Ball. Who dislikes Level Ball? I've never met anyone who dislikes Level Ball. Good card. Lost Vacuum. Good card. I like the art here. The Amelocart, definitely put it on here. Rescue Carrier, same thing. Same Amelocart art. Scoop Up Net, like I said, one of my favorite cards. So many rogue decks I built and expanded relied on this card. I don't even want to expand it back on live because without Scoop Up Net and with Double Dragon Energy back in the format, it's not going to be fun to play. Ultra Ball. Love Ultra Ball on this art. Ultra Ball itself is like not my favorite card ever, but this art is gorgeous. Shout out to Amelocart. Shout out to Richard. Richard Ball for real. This is known as Richard Ball, by the way. If you don't know, this is the official, like, Pokemon sent out an errata that it's no longer called Ultra Ball, it's called Richard Ball, specifically this art. Lucky Egg, really like this reprint of one of my favorite tool cards. Wasn't at all good in the original Diamond and Pearl era, but in its reprint, it's pretty decent. Jubilite Village, just it's like a light Tropical Beach. It's not as good as Tropical Beach, but it's still decent. And I played it because I can't afford Tropical Beach and Expanded. Capture Energy, the final card, I believe. Just a nice special energy that gets extra Pokemon into play. Never a bad thing, right? You know, similar to like Call Energy in a way, but different, obviously, because Call Energy is like almost like it gives you an ability, which is really different. Call Energy is something else. What an energy, right? But I do like Capture Energy. I like getting Pokemon into play. I like, you know, I don't like Battle VIP Pass, though. You know, let's not get that mistaken. I'm pretty tired, but those are my 100 favorite cards from Sword and Shield. Maybe I missed a card in there. You know, there's some honestly honorable mentions, like Al Creamy from Brilliant Stars definitely deserves like an honorable mention. I already talked about my least favorite cards of all time, and a lot of Sword and Shield cards make it in there. A lot of cards I talked about, like Double Dragon, repeatedly also make it in there. So check out my least favorite cards of all time if you want to check out that video. I've made one of those. Yeah, thank you all for watching that, probably this hour-long video. Bye-bye.